Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks. We're a podcast that talks about pop culture things that we're interested in. And sometimes there's whiskey. My name is John, and I'm joined as always by Andrea. How's it going?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, we're back. It's been a
Yes.
little bit extra of a break.
Mhm.
My field work is finally wrapping up, so it should be good to go. Full steam ahead.
Good, good. How did the field work go?
Yeah, it
You
worked out
all
really well, actually. Because plenty of years you get really bad weather that
Mhm.
slows you down, or a whole bunch of things breaking. So early in the season was a little bit slower start, but yeah, once we got really going, went well. So
Good, good. Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be out there today in our whipping tornado winds. I took
yes.
a walk earlier and with the dog and the baby, and poor baby was just like, "My God, what is happening?" She was just like buffeted around trying to stay upright. Like,
Yeah.
"Mom, I'm not made for this. What are you doing?" Oh,
Yep.
God, it was funny.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's looks like it's gonna, winter is upon us. Winter's
Right.
coming, so yeah, it's gonna be
I mean,
cold and
it's
rainy.
November. It's like the time and whatever. We had our daylight savings time where we all got, an extra hour of sleep. Uh, unless unfortunately you're a parent and your kid is like, "Daylight savings time, what is that? I'm just gonna wake up."
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
understand this
Mhm.
whole, extra thing. It is
Yeah.
time for the breakfast. Come.
Well, we've got hunting now, so we've been getting up for that
Yeah.
a little earlier or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Well,
Chris is getting prepared to go on that too, so
okay. Yeah,
busy
you said
time of
something about
year.
scouting. Like
Yeah,
they kind
so
of.
so yeah, he and my dad and my grandpa go up to the hunting lands that they um hunt, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's no really synonym I have for that, so can't use a different word. But yeah, so they go up to the lands that they hunt every year, and just set up their deer stands, kind of scout out if the normal trails that they walk or the places that they kind of go to flush out the deer are a little bit overgrown, and maybe they can trim some trees back, or any trees have fallen. They've had that
Hmm.
before, so they like to get a sense of anything
Makes
that's going
sense.
on that's different with the terrain. It also
Mhm.
could be just an excuse to get outdoors and get up there. So.
Did they ever have to compete for space?
They
Like
have,
other people.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like the past couple of years, but I know a few years ago, they'd gotten up there, and my dad was like, "Yeah, there were some guys setting up some deer stands where we usually are," and we just kind of
Hmm.
ran into them. We were like, "Oh, hey, this is
Yeah.
our spot. We come every," you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
they all worked it out amicably, and everybody was able to get a spot or whatever. But yeah, they've definitely had some "What are you doing here? This is our turf."
I've got an idea. I've got an idea. You can make some signs that say like, abandoned
Secret club, do
minefield,
right,
caution.
right. Do not enter, old fat
Staked out.
skull.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, yeah, it's a different kind of, turf war, hunting turf
Mhm.
war. It's not the kind you hear about often, but, probably the most common in Minnesota.
Yep. Well, it's probably in all this cold weather, some people hunting for a solid drink. Do we have any
Yeah,
holidays that would, appease those fine fellows?
we do, especially for all you hunters out there that are looking for something easy to take on the road and out hunting. We have a plethora of holidays centered around beer, unsurprisingly. October 27th, it was National American Beer Day. And then just a couple of days ago on the 3rd, it was National Stout Day. If you're looking for something like a beer to kind of fill you up and maybe keep you going during hunting season. I mean, stout is basically a meal in and of itself. So there
I
you
mean,
go.
I don't combine alcohol and hunting, but, to
I
each
don't
their
know.
own.
I wouldn't either, but when you're around that fire at night and you want to get a little something,
Sure. Yeah.
maybe that's your jam. And then also, maybe for you people who are not hunting but still like beer and are looking for a beer related activity at home, just yesterday, it was National Learn to Homebrew Day. And
Nice. Wow.
that got me thinking about our friend Phil who used to homebrew.
Mm,
I kind of miss that. Like
yeah.
he had some good creations. Like once he really got into it and kind of like mastered the basics of like, I don't just have to make like an IPA, like I can experiment with flavors and things like that. He kind of had some good stuff going. So,
Yeah. Ben, he always said good stuff too. He made, I don't know if he
yeah.
still does that or not, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how expensive that really is to keep up. I mean, I know it's not cheap to get started. But
Right.
yeah, as you go along, I don't know like how much additional cost that you kind of have to weigh like makes it worth it or not. So
Yep. Good hobby. Useful hobby for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely a fun hobby too, and something like you get the rewards of and you're like, oh well, I made this. Like you have the pride
Mhm.
and also like the actual product, which,
Mhm.
hopefully turned out well.
Yeah.
Um
Well, I'm not, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say for anybody not celebrating beer day, um, there is on the wild opposite end of the alcohol spectrum. On October 28th, it was Global Champagne Day.
Ah,
So beer, champagne,
yeah.
champagne of beers. That
Oh,
was a
yeah,
beer,
there you
right?
go. Do
Right?
both. You do
Right?
both in
Which
one,
one
right?
is that? I know that. What is that?
That's,
Is that Miller something? Miller High
Miller
Life?
High Life?
Is that the
I think
champagne of
so.
beers?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
I know I
That's
I,
a
like, I can vaguely
talented
see the
guess.
can.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, okay. I was like, I can see the can, like, the gold can where it says, like, the champagne of beers, I just yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there you go. Can combine everything.
Perfect. Well, I'm not expecting any bubbly or, beer from you today,
Nope,
but
nope,
have you got anything other than water? Nope, just
trusty
water?
water, trusty water. I
Alright.
can do a lot of different stuff, but, I didn't have any NA beer around, and there's no, like, NA champagne. I mean, no, take that back.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
there's obviously, like, sparkling cider and all of that kind of stuff. I am not a big fan of sparkling cider.
Hmm,
Always find it too sweet. I've never found,
okay.
like, a good, dry sparkling cider.
Yeah, we've got a bottle of regular sparkling grape juice stuff in the fridge.
Sure,
Haven't opened that yet, but
sure.
I never
Yeah,
mind
I
it. I
realized
never mind it.
I realized how ridiculous that was when I was like, "There's no non-alcoholic alternative champagne." I'm like, "Andrea, that's literally, like, the most prolific non-alcoholic thing is non-alcoholic champagne."
Yeah.
Oh, god.
That's all
Can
right.
I
We're gonna make
can
it
I
through
just
this.
chalk it up to pregnancy brain? I'm gonna chalk it up
Yep.
to pregnancy
No, we're
brain.
gonna do it.
Thank
Throw
you.
another technical difficulties, and we'll cut that part out.
Ah, thanks, guys.
Well, I've got. I'm not celebrating any of these holidays,
Ooh.
but
You look like you got something to warm yourself up there, though.
yeah, exactly. Warm drink for a cold day. So
Mhm.
it's a apple cider, warm apple cider, and I
Oh,
have orange bitters in it and Jamaican rum, but James Bond's Jamaican rum. So
nice.
yeah, it was just the
Alright.
60th anniversary about a month ago now. So
Yes, oh my gosh. Yeah, we did do an episode on that. That's flown by.
yeah, remember my grand plan to like watch, I don't know, it's like 2 Bond movies a month or something. Yeah, that didn't work
Yep.
out. That didn't work out.
Someday, someday.
Yeah, we need the rabid audience to demand us
Right?
stick to, you know, promises there. So,
Right. Gonna hold you accountable.
mhm. Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a little while since we've been here, so I've managed to cover quite a few things in my week slash 2 weeks, whatever it's been, in media things after
Sure.
work. So I'm gonna mention a few of those, and then we'll have some news, and then later in the episode, we're gonna be talking House of the Dragon, episode 9. So we're still working through the penultimate episode of the season. We'll be
Mhm.
getting that to that later. Um, but other than that, this last week, um, I managed to do plenty of Halloween related things.
Awesome.
Halloween was a little different this year, but Ashley's idea was let's go through the Conjuring universe movies in order of chronology, not of date of release. And it's been really good. I'm surprised.
Okay.
I like going this order so far.
Okay.
I think that it's some of the stuff makes a little more sense. You can kind of see when they originally released The Conjuring how they were planting seeds for future things, but it wouldn't really have any meaning to at the moment. And so,
Sure.
of course, when the other films come out and you can go back and watch it, it has more meaning. But it's fun seeing it this way too, where it just sort of all makes more sense going through that
Mhm.
way. So, before I'd already mentioned, I watched The Nun, which was
Right.
surprisingly a lot better than when I originally saw it. And
Right.
then Annabelle Creation,
Mhm.
Annabelle, and The
I loved
Conjuring.
Annabelle.
See, did you see Annabelle Creation?
No. No, I don't think I
Okay.
have.
It's better. It's
Okay.
better than Annabelle.
Okay.
I like the most surprising thing to me is having seen thus far all of these movies, they
Mhm.
all hold up. I like them all as much as I did originally or more.
Okay.
And so I'm just looking at this like this is a 4 movie run of horror movies
Mhm.
that is good. How
Right.
often does that happen?
Right.
That's a pretty uncommon feat, really. And I think
Yeah.
it's going a little not getting the respect it deserves. So
Yeah, I like the way that you're watching these because I think there's something fun about, like you said, noticing things from one movie to the next this way. Whereas like when you have like so much time between theatrical releases, you just don't like pick up on the little things. You don't pick up on the little cues, or it's just that much harder to remember like 2 years later that one little tiny scene or moment or line or you know placement of Annabelle in one shot, and now like over here that means something else. It's like, dang, like it's really hard to pull it together unless you're like super mega fan. Whereas like this way you kind of do get that like, oh my gosh, like look at all the things I'm noticing. Like look at all the things I can pick up on. And that's just like extra special for you as the viewer.
yep, yep,
And this is like a reasonable amount in a series. So I'm going through like the Halloween series right now. I watched Halloween 2, and I just like with Halloween or with like Friday the 13th, there's just so many movies that sometimes I'm like, ugh, why? Why am I like trying to get through all of these? And I still want to, but also it's just like a little bit exhausting to like think about getting through them all, or like trying to remember everything, or like I know the quality's gonna dip here, like let's get ready for it,
yeah,
you know?
right,
So,
yep, yeah. I'm kind of waiting for that because I know. I think it's the last one in the series thus far. Is The Conjuring 3
right.
really felt like a weak point for me. Um, and then there's another kind of Annabelle or something one that I
Yeah.
haven't seen. I forgot what it is. It's a Spanish name. It's like Il
La
La
Llorona.
Lora. Yeah, something like that.
La Llorona.
So
Yeah, that's like the crying woman. Yeah.
so I'm excited to see that one for sure. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's been good. I was watching this podcast that stole our name. It's Hollywood on the Rocks and those losers. But
That's right.
they had a discussion about what was their favorite, or not necessarily even the favorite, the best um, horror franchise of all time.
Ooh, the best horror franchise.
Some people gave their own little argument and then ultimately like chat voted, but
Okay. Did they
what
have
do
any
you think?
parameters? What did they have any parameters? Like, did it have to be centered around like a villain? Do you know what I mean? Like, where was like something like the Conjuring universe discounted because it's not like a
No,
singular
that
villain? You know what
counted.
I mean?
If it's a universe that's connected
Okay,
and
okay.
a franchise, so
Okay, alright, just I mean, I'm just curious because
yeah,
obviously that could be like a drawing point, like, "Oh, no, it has to be like Saw or Friday the 13th or, Nightmare on Elm Street," whatever.
yeah. And I think it just has
Um,
to have at least 2 entries, and those things can expand over movies or movies and TV, whatever.
oh, interesting. Gosh. So what's the best franchise?
Yeah.
Huh.
Th they
I mean,
came
was it the
down
Oh, no, go ahead.
yeah, they came down to, choosing, the Night of the Living Dead series
Oh, okay.
franchise,
Interesting,
which
interesting.
yeah, and
That was chat that chose that?
well, yes, so this was one of the people, one of their choices, and then the
Okay,
top choices would get put into a poll and chat voted.
okay.
I feel like the chat was swayed by the main host of the show's opinion because it was his
Was
selection.
it
I don't know. I
Sure.
don't know. But
Was he, like, strongly advocating for that, or was he, like,
yeah,
pretty
that
neutral
was the
about his
idea is
choosing?
everybody's really like giving their choice and trying to
Okay,
defend it. So maybe
okay.
most passionately defended it or something like that. But I guess I can't speak on that. While I know that it's important in terms
Yeah,
of um, what it did for the horror industry. Like it did stand out. Not only did they were try to tackle themes in those films, but then just the practical effects and stuff that were done very well. So like,
right.
I don't bemoan the choice, it's just I'm not particularly interested in those films. So,
Sure,
for me, it's not wouldn't be my choice.
sure. What would be your choice?
I think Alien. I still just I
Ooh,
love the original Alien so much, and
and
then
that
there's
counts?
some oh, yeah,
Okay. I mean, I
because I
didn't
mean,
know
like
again, parameters, like, true
right,
horror and, like, not mixed with sci-fi, you know what I mean? Like, I just
right.
wanna know our definitions here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
my
mean,
English major, I'm sorry.
I no, I think see because I think the second one, my second choice, my runner up is probably Evil Dead, which is like a
Ooh,
mixture
yeah.
of there's some that are meant to be pretty scary, and then some that just like complete camp,
Right,
and you
exactly.
know,
So, yeah, would you
so
classify that as a yeah. I mean, you
mhm,
do, because how can you not? But also,
yeah,
like, true horror, probably not.
yeah. It's
So,
like
yeah, so you
Scream, like
right,
those are
exact I was
scary,
thinking about
but there's a
Scream.
lot of like a lot of levity there as well.
Right. Yeah,
So
I mean, I flashed over Scream just because when you said, like, it can cross universes, like, it can get into, like, TV and stuff like that, and I was like, well, Scream is currently I think still
yeah.
streaming as a TV
Oh, okay.
show. Um, I don't know, I don't think that got canceled yet. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound defeatist, I'm just sort of like, I think it's still running. So, yeah,
Yeah,
so I
I
just
think
was
so.
wondering if that, like, due to its popularity, um,
Yeah.
yeah, because I
So
mean,
so what do you
yeah,
think? I mean,
what do I think of or, like, what's my
yeah, what would be your pick? I mean, obviously, I won't hold you to it because we haven't had
Sure,
too long to
sure, I
think
haven't,
about
like
it,
I
but
yeah, I know, I was like, I haven't
yeah.
really thought about it. Um, I despite some problems, really love the Insidious universe.
Okay. Yeah.
I really do.
That's are there 3?
There's 4, I believe,
Oh, okay.
because there's, like, a prequel that came out to not much fanfare, but was actually good. I think 3 was my, like, least favorite.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, 1 is my
Holy
all-time, like, Insidious is just amazing.
Alan shared a list here.
Oh my gosh!
Insidious.
Yeah. Oh, wait, those
Okay,
are
so
albums, though. No, that's
One,
is that a
two,
is it
three,
wait, is that a
four.
film though? Oh, the last 2 are unrelated.
Yeah,
Okay, alright, so it's
4.
4. So it's 4. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
thank you. I
yeah.
was like, "Wait a minute." Yeah, Insidious: The
Yeah,
Last Key is what I'm thinking of, was
that might
the
be a fun one to do, next year for Halloween and go through those. I yeah, so the last key, that's, is that with that, little older woman and she's, like, going into people's minds? It also has,
Yeah,
yes. It also has the as Patrick Wilson. Yes.
yes.
Yes, those are good.
I really I mean, the first one, like I said, is my absolute favorite. I love the second one too because it doesn't stick too much to, like, the original. It doesn't feel itself tied too much to the original, where it, like, tries to do the same thing. It uses elements, but it has, like, a whole new plot line, so I really like it, but yeah, the original is just, like, in my top 5, if
Yeah.
not my top 3 for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, someone brought up, Hannibal Lecter universe, and I thought that was a good pick because they were
Oh,
including then the
yeah.
Hannibal television series,
Right, right, which is
and,
great.
yes, so
Yeah. I feel like I keep every time you say something, I'm like, "All right, I have to, like, expand my definitions of, like,
yeah,
what's possible here."
mhm,
Yeah, that
mhm,
would be a good pick. That would be a very good pick.
so yeah, Halloween stuff. Hope everybody had
I
a
love
good
it.
one. Just one more thing I'll mention, because it's Halloween related. Resident Evil
Of
2.
course.
I'm finally trying to finish that. The DLC for Resident Evil Village came out recently, and it's like before I
Yes.
get onto that, the Rose stuff, I should finish up Resident Evil 2.
Mhm.
So, finally I can get a few Resident Evil games under my belt instead of just saying that I beat Resident Evil 5, you know. Yeah, 5 and then Village and 3 remake, and I can do 2 now, and then 4 will come out. Gotta do that, so,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
you better not miss my fave.
Yeah. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end. So,
Good.
yeah, it's been good. And, like, one little, I know already going along, but like, as a throwing it out there for people playing games on their PlayStation
Oh, yeah.
5, which I am doing with Resident Evil 2. There is a free PS5 update and all that stuff. It's there's a really nice feature because it'd been a long time since I played this, and so it has built in on a lot of games, like help or tip feature into the operating system. So
Oh,
I
oh,
didn't
oh,
know
I see.
where to go or whatever was going on. And so I can go in there and say like help, get help basically. And it just gives you, it knows where you are in the game, and you can tab through things that you should do or whatever. And that's found that really useful. I used to
Yeah, that's
be
cool.
so opposed to any sort of like look up any help or anything like that. But then I would quit a lot of games, and there's a lot of things
Mhm.
that I wouldn't ever end up appreciating because like, well, that's too frustrating right now. I'm done with that, and then never go back to it. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a nice feature. But, anyways, your Halloween, your week, how's that been?
It's been good. I haven't done quite as much as, like, your full list, even though you didn't go through with it. Um, like I said, I watched Halloween 2. I got a fair amount of movie watching in, because I not only saw Halloween 2 on Netflix, I checked out, um, Romantic Killer, which sounds like it should be like a Halloween type of thing, but it actually
Yeah.
is like a rom-com, not like a romance and also like an axe murderer.
Is it
Um,
good?
it's very cute. Like the first episode is a
Okay.
lot of setup, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but it's very it's good setup, it's good like intro to the characters, intro to the premise of like what's going on in this rom-com setup that's like very meta because it's a game being set up
Yeah.
in this girl's life. So it's very fun. I like it so far. And then also uh got to check out, oh god, I'm so excited. Finally made my dreams come true and got to see Black Adam on the big screen. Chris took me out for a date wonderful husband that he is, and just, suffered through my, like, drooling, all over the Rock as Black Adam. We can get into it a little bit later because it's gonna come up with something else that we're talking about in the news. But overall, solid. I would say it's not like a Wonder Woman level good,
Okay.
but it's more like Shazam level good. Like
Okay.
a solid B, like at times maybe dips into the like B minus territory, but only because I think of like a certain few issues that I think another movie could resolve. But
Okay.
it's like it's a great starring vehicle built for The Rock. Like it's obviously built for him. And he
Hmm.
does extremely well in it. I think it may be like a little bit to the detriment of some of the supporting cast because they're a little less fleshed out. But overall,
Right.
really good movie.
I will look at the camera intentionally as I say, everybody got to take that review with a grain of salt. Take out about half a grade or something, knowing Andrea
All right, so
and
maybe
Dwayne
B
Johnson.
minus,
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. Well,
But
that's good. I'm glad you liked it.
no, I did really like it. Like I said, it had a couple of like dips just in the case of like there were a couple like weak script moments where I was like, "Ooh, it probably could have like bolstered that plot point." Or there was like one or two moments where like you guys spend millions of dollars and you just fell flat on these like two CGI moments where it really needed some work.
Uh,
Um, but but on the whole, for the amount of effects this movie had and like the amount of ground it had to cover in introducing us to, a basically unheard of character for mainstream audiences, not for like people in the know. Um, I think it did really well.
okay. Yeah, it's sort of the tenor of discussion I've heard about it. People are just looking for something fun, and this seems to deliver mostly.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's good.
yeah. And then I also checked out two more movies back to back, just kind of binged because the second movie in this universe came out, and I was feeling a little nostalgic for my Victorian scholarly days. I watched Enola Holmes 1 and 2 on Netflix, um, which also, I mean, it was really fun, obviously like Enola Holmes is the sister to Sherlock Holmes, so it's like right in my wheelhouse for Victorian era. Fun movies, fun setting, fun cast. Millie Bobby Brown does really well as the lead, as does her supporting cast, Sam Claflin as one of her brothers, Mycroft, Helena Bonham Carter as the Holmes family matriarch is a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And then Henry Cavill as Sherlock, the infamous Sherlock. And not so much the first movie, but the second movie, they had a brother sister, like older guardian, younger apprentice vibe that really, really strongly reminded me. Um, I mean, obviously, different setting, different characters, but really, really reminded me vibe wise of Witcher
Oh,
with
okay.
Geralt and Ciri.
Sure.
It was very much that same vibe, which I think works. Like Henry Cavill does really well in these sort of like stoic, I have special talents and I've unwillingly adopted like an eager young apprentice who wants to learn from me. He does really well in this like back and forth kind of like big brothery type of relationship. Um so yeah, so I think it's dissimilar enough in like obviously the plot point, setting, I'm creating a different character here, but the vibe is the same and it does really well.
Okay. Cool. Nice. Yeah, it was interesting. I heard uh, Enola Holmes when it was first coming out, quite pop up quite a few places, and then two, just like out of nowhere. I felt
Yeah,
like
nobody knew
so.
it was coming, really.
Yeah.
And it just like dropped and then suddenly it was like number 1 on Netflix. So,
Yep.
I was just like, "Oh, right. I wanted to see that and now I should."
Yep. Perfect. Well, that's perfect for our upcoming news stories because we're going to take all that stuff and keep on the same track. Henry Cavill is in the
Yes,
news quite a lot of late.
he is everywhere.
You just mentioned that this relationship seemed a lot like Geralt and Ciri. Well, that relationship is about to end because
Mhm.
Henry Cavill will no longer be Geralt of Rivia in the fourth season of The Witcher.
Yeah,
So,
major spoiler alert if you didn't know that.
um, is it? Is that a spoiler alert?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
people could
it's not a
not
story spoiler alert. It's casting. I
no,
mean,
it's
it's
casting, yeah, but
yes,
that could I guess, yeah, not spoiler alert, but maybe just, like, take a beat if you need to steady yourself because when
yeah.
I read that, that was shocking to me.
It's um. So Oh, you can keep the spoiler thing up, Alan, though. That's good because we will talk because I think you wanted to
Yes,
mention a spoiler, right?
I do.
Because this is all interconnected, what's going
Yes.
on here, it seems. So right now, Henry Cavill has played Geralt in season 1 and 2 of The Witcher. He's a big
Mhm.
fan of the source material. He's a big fan of the games. And I'm guessing they're in the middle of or done filming season 3, which he
Right,
will be a part of, and then no longer for season 4, which he will
right.
then be replaced by Liam Hemsworth. But this all coincides with a new, I don't know, spoiler now for Black Adam, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely
Spoiler for
spoiler
Black
for Black
Adam.
Adam. Yeah, so this coincides with, like, a rebirth of sorts, in the sense that Henry Cavill announced he is rejoining, the DC universe as Superman, and he makes a little pop-in cameo appearance, a post-credits appearance, in Black Adam as Superman, and I'm not gonna lie to you, the face-off between Superman and Black Adam just is, like, crackling with tension and electricity and just, like, over the top, like, both of them absolutely believing I can beat your ass machismo, and it's amazing. It was so good. It was honestly and this says nothing about the caliber of the movie, but it was honestly one of my favorite parts in addition to the movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to say, like,
Sure.
"Oh my god, the post-credit scene was one of your favorite parts, like, the movie really must suck." No, the movie was solid, and the post-credit scene was just, like, alive. Like, I could just feel it. So
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we know that The Rock has wanted to get this Black Adam movie made for a very long time. It's
mhm.
been in some stage of production or like trying to make it happen for many years, like over a decade or something. It's a
Oh,
very long time.
absolutely, yeah, it's been a long time.
And part of that is wanted to like see his character face off against Superman. And
Mhm.
I don't think too many people argue that Henry Cavill is a very good Superman. Whatever people might think of the varying DCEU movies, the complaints usually don't come down to Henry Cavill portraying the Man of
Right,
Steel.
it's not a casting issue.
Right. So, I don't know. This is all just really interesting. Lots of stuff being shooken up. This is
Mhm.
the like news element. I'm gonna put on my I don't know like conjecture hat now.
Okay.
Speculation speculation corner here, whatever. Um, to me, this I'm thinking so. Henry Cavill's been on record saying that he'll be Geralt as long as he can be Geralt if they're true to the source material. Well, we saw already in season 2 a pretty starting to deviate quite heavily from that.
Right.
Henry Cavill seems to be one of the few people in Hollywood that is like okay with fandoms and understanding of that. And so I'm sure he's like hears it and wants to do what he can on set for for honoring the source material that he likes. This comes out along with someone on set also saying that some of the writers actively disliked the books and the games. So there's been a
Mhm.
few articles going around about that.
Right.
Um, the quote is from Bo DeMayo, former producer and writer of The Witcher. I've been on shows, namely Witcher, where some of the writers were not or actively disliked books and games, even actively mocking source material, and then saying that it's not really a great environment to be in. Um,
Right.
so I think that Henry Cavill was looking to get out, but being if you can kind of convince yourself like, oh, it's a thing that I love, I am part of it still, like even if they're changing it and it's a good job. But then when DC comes calling and says, hey, you want to come back and be a big part of our kind of DC relaunch,
Right.
as the Man of Steel, and have some creative input and stuff like that, that's the kind of the perfect time to jump. It's
Right.
like, all right, I don't need my name attached to this thing anymore that has people in charge of it that aren't really a fan of the thing they're making.
Right.
Which I don't think is anything unique. I'm just unique that someone said it, that was involved. And then that, he now can be on to something else that, has just as much or more appeal. And, you know,
Right.
yeah. So I think it all kind of just worked out for him.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I think the timing works out even though as a fan, a fan, well, a fan of The Witcher. I mean, I'm also a fan of Black Adam. But I mean, as a fan of The Witcher, I'm disappointed. I never like a recasting, and I think Henry Cavill has been especially a wonderful Geralt. So, I mean, the thought of Liam Hemsworth replacing him to me is sad on a couple of levels. I don't want to see Henry Cavill go. I appreciate that he loves the source material and he has, we've heard stories of him like steering the writers back to, you know, this isn't something Geralt would say or do. This plot
Right.
point doesn't make sense, so kind of like avoiding those mistakes. So obviously I'm worried for the series at that point. I have no idea where Liam Hemsworth falls on the spectrum of like, do I care about The Witcher? Or is this just like a great job for me? Like there's the physicality, like not
Yep.
that Liam Hemsworth is like some shrimpy dude or whatever, but I mean, are we like gonna give Geralt like new skill sets? Are we not relying on like the body type anymore, the strength, the sheer like muscled force of Geralt? Is this gonna be a little bit different portrayal? So there are a lot of questions there and a lot of, worries about the future of that show, which I really enjoy. On the flip side, yeah, I can't blame Henry Cavill for getting out of this toxic environment. I think if he was less of a fan of the show, it probably wouldn't affect him or bother him as much. But since he is, yeah, that would be especially harmful to like watch people actively mock or destroy something you love. And then to flip to the DC universe, getting involved with like the Black Adam potential franchise with someone like Dwayne Johnson, who clearly cares so much about this material. He worked to try and have it made for over a decade. Yeah, that's got to be refreshing for him.
Yep.
And obviously
Right.
like something he would want to be a part of in both the workplace environment capacity, but then also as getting kind of a fresh start for Superman where we're not getting tied into all these like face off with Batman kind of movies. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like he gets a new
Yeah.
storyline.
Right.
So that's got to be
Yeah.
refreshing too.
Yep. No, yeah, I agree. I mean, The Witcher, the show already for me had one more season to kind of redeem itself. It's
Right.
like I think a lot of people were surprised at how good the first season was.
Right.
No idea of where the expectations should be. It's a pretty lofty fantasy world to create, and I was like, wow, you really missed on a couple spots that were easily correctable. Some
Yeah.
armor for the Nilfgaardians, that people pointed out, and Triss having red hair, and
Right.
like dressing a little bit like Triss, just a few things, that could have been
Right.
tweaked to really, really nail it. But overall, people were like, "Hey, this is a fun interpretation and well done." And then season two, in a lot of ways, took a step down. It seemed like on some of the action, it took a step down, definitely in terms of staying true to like what the story is about. Really made Eskel. I won't spoil that stuff, but uh,
we have a whole,
yeah,
podcast mini series. We've covered all the episodes of season 2, so go watch it because we have
yeah,
thoughts.
yep. So it was on its last legs. It's like, okay, are you going to take feedback and turn this around in season 3 or
Right.
what? And to me, Henry Cavill exiting means they haven't. That's my, and
Yeah.
we'll see if I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's just, maybe it has nothing to do with that. But to me, it's like season 3 meant last straw. And
Mm,
we didn't come back from the edge here. So
yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it definitely, like, ups my intrigue for seeing season 3, and then also
mm,
upgrades, like, my fear, you know, going into that
mhm.
as well. You know what I mean? Like, I'm at
Yep.
once, like, interested to see, like, is this the reason? And then also, like, terrified to confirm that it's the reason.
Yep. It's just, too many cooks in the kitchen as well with this stuff. People just they get impatient. They see too many dollar signs because we have, you know, they announced a trilogy of Witcher games coming and they want them coming really soon. They
Mhm.
have the Witcher television show, they had the animated show, and then they're going to be doing the prequel series that looks like a CW show. Like it's going to be too much. You're not taking the time to cultivate the talent to make these things and really care and put the effort in. And so
Right.
you're just going to take another beloved franchise that and make people wish it would have just stuck to the books and the 3 games. And then just
Right.
could we have just been done? Could we have just stopped? We couldn't. So I that's my fear for what we're going to get with The Witcher, which
Right.
seems to be what we get with everything now. It can just never, you know, uh, it requires some people that have made these properties to not sell off the rights and to like, hold on to those things. In Tolkien's case, there's not much you could do. They waited for Tolkien to die and then got rid of it. So it's what do you do? But yeah, I'm not. I'm excited for Henry Cavill here. I'm excited
Mhm.
for The Rock. I'm excited for these things and a maybe reversal of what's going on with the DC universe
Yeah.
because they have new presidents now.
They do, they do. Holy cow. This was like a
Yeah,
sneaky little bomb that I didn't know.
yeah. So Shakeup at DC. We all know that. Been talking about that.
Right.
It's just Warner Brothers Discovery or whatever now, and James Gunn is the name we're familiar with, and
Mhm.
he's co-chair and co-CEO of DC Studios now.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Yeah. That, that to me is pretty amazing for, a guy that, I know there are a lot of opinions on many, many different sides, and I won't get into it, but, for a while there, seemed like he was in danger of not being able to find work at all,
right?
and now is, heading a studio. I mean, it's just kind of amazing to me.
hmm
So,
I think James Gunn is talented. He has passion, and yeah, he's talented and he has passion. I'll say
yeah,
that. He's
yeah,
a good filmmaker. Um, I don't like the way that he really doesn't care about source. It really does seem like he'll look into things and use it as inspiration. Like that's the way
it's
he's going to
loose.
work. Like I really want to make my James Gunn version of this thing. Like that means
Mhm.
a lot. But at the same time now he's, CEO of DC Studios. That's not the director role. That's not
Right.
writing a film. So I don't know. We'll see. He
Yeah.
he has a good sense for what people want. I would normally think. I don't know. The second Suicide Squad movie didn't do well, but but I don't. know how
Yeah, I
best
don't.
to explain that. Is it marketing?
mm,
Is it the first one that brought it down? Is it
right, exactly.
what? You know?
There's so many factors there that I don't know that that's representative. And I mean, it did well enough to spawn Peacemaker, the series,
Mhm.
which did do well.
Okay.
So, I mean, was it just that people needed like a break from, like anything titled Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
And if we'd titled it something different, or we marketed different, or we, like I know I belabored the kind of woes of the trailer that made it seem like an
Yeah.
entirely different movie, which obviously I felt was a mistake, but yeah.
Mhm.
So many things
Yeah.
there that I don't know that judging him on that one, even though I like the movie, the success of that one is like the judge of his quality.
And maybe it did better after the fact. If Peacemaker
That's
did
true.
well,
That's true.
then maybe it attracted a lot of
People
people
were,
to go
yeah,
back and watch it.
right,
So
yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, stuff's really a changing. And
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see what happens with DC. So
Yeah. Speaking of
uh
stuff that's changing,
yeah.
man,
Yeah.
man,
So
HBO just
yeah.
just
So same
cutting out my
company.
heart here.
Okay. So Westworld. Westworld is a show that we've covered on the podcast. We haven't
Extensively.
finished covering the latest season, season 4.
Try.
But I intend to get to it because I was actually liking it.
Same.
So, but there will be no more. I
I
mean, it's
know.
sort of like we had with Raised by Wolves and
I
looking for
know.
more, and now, yeah. This
Yeah, yeah.
this is their fault, though. I think this is their like so. Westworld season 1, I think, it was the show that was the offbeat to Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
So people had people tuning in for Game of Thrones, and hopefully some people were sticking around, when it wasn't airing for Westworld. And
And
so
they were.
yeah.
Season 1, people definitely were.
Mhm. And then season 2 was a little weirder for some people. A little too weird, I think.
Yep.
The when you talk to people about it, some people really weren't okay with how that season unfolded and didn't feel it made a lot of sense. I know we both really liked it still,
Yes.
even though I don't think it lived up to the first season. There was a lot
Right.
good to be had there.
Right, I think we were
Um,
fair in acknowledging its weak points. I mean,
mhm.
it wasn't season 1, and it didn't exceed season 1, but there were still, like, solidly good things about the plot and the acting to
Yep.
carry it.
Yep. Yep. And then there was a big delay. And now I haven't looked this up and verified it myself, so with a grain of salt. But I've heard someone mention recently that they had a script for season 3, and then they trashed it all, the whole thing, and rewrote it.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it it's why we have a season that took longer to get and feels really different from
Yes.
the preceding 2 seasons.
Yes.
And it was a extreme downgrade in a lot of ways. Like we
Yes.
both liked stuff in it for sure. I think it
Sure.
started stronger than it really failed to end, well. Um, but yeah, I mean, but combined with the delay and then a season that for the people that did come back really didn't land. And I think probably by that point was Game of Thrones done or
Oof, I don't
wrapping.
remember.
I
I
just feel like
I
maybe the
unfortunately don't
HBO
remember.
wasn't getting the draw at the time for
Right.
people, like if you weren't there already.
Yeah, yeah. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, I think the gap worked against Westworld in two ways. One, the people who were retuning in saw a different show than what they remembered because it was so vastly different. And yeah, I think there was already, if Game of Thrones wasn't over, it would have been in its like last gasps where everybody was so disappointed, that I
Hmm.
don't think anybody had the time to stick around for Westworld. You know what I mean? Like there was
Yeah.
already like a sense of like hate watching the end of Game of Thrones, and it
Yeah.
was like, I'm not doing that with another show.
Mhm. Mhm. It just so many people, they subscribed to HBO when Game of Thrones was on and for that, and then turned it off. And so if something
Yeah,
wasn't there to really actively keep them, they were gone.
and
And
Westworld
this being gone
would
for a
not have.
while, out of sight, out of mind, yeah, like you say. And so then by the time season 4 rolls around, and by every measure we can find thus far, it is a much better season.
Vast
It's a
improvement.
too little too late.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah,
too late.
it's somewhere I think for me in the middle of season 1 and season 2. Do you know what
Mhm,
I mean? Like season
mhm.
4, I like it more than season 2 because I think it's a little bit more of its own thing, whereas season 2, for all of the good things it had, did feel like it was lacking when compared to season 1 because it was similar, it was still in the same world, in the same vein.
Yeah,
I think season 4 has the freedom of not being tied to Westworld. I'm so glad spoilers
yeah.
are still up because 'cause I'm just, like, giving stuff away if you haven't watched it. Um, but yeah, it's really too bad because I feel like season 4 really found some great footing and
Mhm.
just got solidly back on track. I mean, I didn't think after season 3 there was any way that I was going to tolerate Aaron Paul's character of Caleb for another season,
Right.
and he
Yeah.
really just changed my mind about that.
Yeah.
Just totally reversed course. Um, and I think his portrayal and his relationship, of his character to Tandy Way Newton's, oh my gosh, Maeve, is really one of the strongest points about season 4.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really disappointing to me, especially because here in the cancellation announcement, they were looking at season 5 as wrapping up, um, the series, and it just burns me. It's like, why can't you give them one more?
Mhm.
I hate these like sudden cancellation cliffhangers. It just,
Uh, yeah.
burns
It
me.
it is it is
Burns.
too bad. It's I do like it was what Zaslav was recently quoted as saying, like, it just doesn't make sense to spend, you know, millions and millions of dollars and not make that back. Like, we just
I mean, I
can't
know,
keep
I know, I
operating at a deficit,
know.
you
I
know?
know.
But
I
yeah,
I get
it's,
it, but yeah, as a fan, obviously, you're just, like, incensed. You're just like, "Come on! We're so
mhm,
close!"
yep.
So, yeah, that is really a bummer, and also, your and we don't have to transition now, but, um, your reminder that there was a big gap between 2 and 3 does just make me panicked for all HBO shows that have big gaps. Like
Mm.
House of the Dragon is about to, where they're like,
Mm.
"Surprise, season 2 isn't dropping for, like, another 2 years." I mean, I might be exaggerating, but they were, like, "Get ready for a long gap," and now I'm just like, God, does every
Yeah.
show HBO show that comes back from a long gap, are they under some sort of curse? Do they have too much time to, like, force themselves to be like, "We have to make a quality show," and then somehow it's, like, just enough time to make a shit show?
I think it's really dependent on the series. Like, I just think the rules don't apply for how long a gap can be across the board. I just think
Sure,
it really is case by case.
sure.
People did come back for House of the Dragon. It never reached, as far as I'm aware, never reached numbers like Game of Thrones when it was doing very well,
Right.
but it certainly had an audience. And it kind of has to regrow some of that audience. I don't think if the expectation is we'll ever have Game of Thrones level engagement again, they should throw away those expectations. That can be
Yeah,
goals, but not expectations, because
yeah.
Game of Thrones for a while was a cultural touchstone. It was a
Mhm.
thing. And
That
just
was a
like
phenomenon.
when the first Avengers movie came out,
Yeah.
Like that was a big deal. There was certain things that in modern cinema that were like everybody water cooler things,
Right.
and I wouldn't expect that again out of anything, even if you do strive for it. So,
Yeah.
well, yeah. While we're on it, House of the
Might as
Dragon.
well.
Yeah,
Might as well.
episode 9 is
Yeah.
not actually the follow up to the finale as I originally would have thought it would be. It is we have one left after this in the season,
Yes.
and I'm going to preface this by saying that I went into this episode a little weary because try as I might, murmurings, made their way through vines
Yeah.
to me about some of the things of this episode. Just
Oh, this
namely
episode.
that,
Okay.
yeah, just namely that it was disappointing. When
Mhm.
on a season wide thing, it was disappointing.
Sure.
Someone even suggesting it seemed like the ending didn't belong in the show or whatever, and that or like it felt like it wasn't part of the same show or made by the same people or something like that. And then that there was a
Okay.
really disturbing foot scene. Um, and so I have to say, after watching it, I find those faults and
False.
complaints
Okay.
falling on deaf ears.
Okay. Okay. So you liked this episode,
I did. Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
just didn't, or was it that the complaints didn't bother you?
No,
You know what I
it
mean?
was
I feel
that
like there's a
well,
difference.
the reason I'm adding this little asterisk here is because maybe if I hadn't heard any of these things, my expectations would have been higher and my
And then they would have
judgment would have
fallen.
been right, would have been more
Sure. Sure.
severe.
Sure. Sure. I get you.
Maybe. But with what I had in mind, like going in like, oh, maybe this is gonna be the weaker episode of the season, I was like, I don't think so at all. I very much enjoyed this episode, and I thought it's to the strength of the line of characters we have when we could have
Sure.
a whole episode without Damon or Rhaenyra at all,
Yeah.
and then we've lost Viserys, so like people not involved here and still enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Almost no Targaryen bloodline involved.
Right.
Almost. No direct Targaryen. Well, no, that's not true.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not true.
direct. Yeah, it's the kids. The kids. And
Right, yeah,
then
I was gonna say, and Rhaenys.
Rhaenys. Yeah.
I
We're
momentarily,
gonna
like,
rewind a bit again.
yeah, I momentarily lumped her in because Valarian, and then I was like, "No, no, no,
Yeah.
she's a Targaryen by blood," even though she, obviously married outside.
Yep.
I mean, outside quotes.
Yeah. One of the few,
Um,
I suppose, of the Targaryens, it
right,
seems.
right.
But
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll give my overall impressions, and then we can, like, deep dive into it. I didn't I also heard some rumblings about this episode, and I have to say I don't think this was a weak episode. I think there's another episode in the season that probably earns that title for me,
yes.
but this was probably one of the most, if you know how I've been watching the season and how frustrated I've been with the entire Hightower clan slash Kristen Cole, this was probably the most frustrating episode for me to get through just because, like, at literally every turn, I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid. Like, you can't actually believe this. Oh my God, you're having a realization. It's way too late, you idiot. Or like somebody was doing something to just absolutely effing piss me off. So, like, the whole episode was just, like, enraging to watch people talk themselves into their, like, delusions of,
Mm,
like, what they wanna believe and how hard they had to hide from the truth to make that happen. Like, the mental gymnastics and, like, the circles that people had to talk themselves into to, like,
yeah.
make things fit their own desired narrative was just astonishing and astonishingly stupid. So, of course, like,
Mhm.
as a viewer, I was just sitting there being like, "Ugh, ugh, ugh." Like, so
I can see you sitting there on the couch just, "Ah." I can totally
seriously.
see that.
I mean, if you just look at my show notes, it's basically like a mind dump of like, there's, like, all of me being like, "Oh my god." So, yeah. I mean, I have, like, 60,000 times the show notes you have. You have 2 show notes,
Yeah,
but I
I
don't
know, I
I mean, I think only half of that was born out of frustration, and some of that was just, like, things were actually happening that I was like, "Wow, interesting." So,
okay, okay. Yeah, okay, so, I mean, yeah, I think I mean, agree in the sense that, yeah, the weaker episode was earlier in the season. I think it
yeah,
was the first one where we had the cast change, right? I think that was the
yeah,
one, and then we had the older kids, and then it's like, this seemed like it yeah, I think that one was
struggled,
the
yeah.
gross one, yeah. Um, yeah, I understand what you're saying with frustration by some of these things. I guess I'm used to what these characters are, so it's not unexpected. Um, I I was interested to see how um what's his name now? The new king. Um, is
Aegon?
it Aegon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first son, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was interested to see how this was gonna, because obviously a lot of the episode was spent looking for him and
right.
how desperately he wants to not have this.
Yeah,
So I thought it was really interesting to see this progression of how he was kind of warmed to the idea and then embraced it all quite quickly.
yeah,
And I do think it makes sense. It's one of the things where you're seeing those around you and you're like, I don't want this responsibility. I don't want anything to do with all this. Just leave me alone.
right,
No one no one seems to listen or care about me anyways or whatever. So it
right.
just kind of further puts you into this sort of I want nothing to do with you. But then, you know, I mean, and he starts the moment. It's one of my favorite moments. He's sitting there with his mom in the carriage, and he's like, "What are you talking about?
Oh,
Dad didn't even like me. He didn't want
yes.
anything to, of course." And then she shows him a dagger,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Are you serious? Really?" Like,
Oh,
it
oh,
start,
ugh. Ugh, I'm sorry. It's just like it's so much. Like I have in the show notes, I'm like, even Aegon is like, are you all seriously believing that like
yes,
Viserys had an 11th hour change of heart and was like, Aegon should be heir? Like even he realizes how stupid that sounds.
yep,
Like, and he's not
mhm,
afraid to be like, this is bullshit. Like he hated me, which I don't think he did, but he definitely was uninterested.
right,
I mean,
right,
I think we clearly saw that.
yep,
He liked him as a little kid, and then he grew up and was like a spoiled little brat, and Viserys was basically like, I don't care. I got my own problems. And then,
yep,
yeah, Alicent shows him the dagger, which basically proves nothing other than she stole it. And
right,
he's like, oh, interesting. Oh, and then says like, "Oh, you're my son." When last episode she was like, "You're no son of mine." I'm like,
right,
"Oh my god." So, yeah,
yeah,
just like showing off for me Allison's just like absolute inability to commit to anything and just like change herself around whatever. Um but yeah, for Aegon, I think that is a very powerful motivator. He feels neglected by his parents and now suddenly, Alicent's showing him attention, showing him this like potential post-mortem gift that Viserys is
mhm,
giving him and that goes to his head and I think it would for any kid that seems to finally be accepted or loved, no matter how much deep down if he was a more brave and honest person, he would probably realize this is pretty fake. But
yep,
sometimes people just like need that surface acceptance and love
yep,
and he
yeah.
does.
And it's setting up for him to be one of the, you know, Well, not a great leader probably, because you'd see him at the end, that he is not used to this sort of any sort of attention, and that's a positive one. So when you have
Right.
a room, packed to the gills with people cheering for you that you sort of have command of, it's what an intoxicating thing all of a sudden for someone
Absolutely.
that's gone from zero love to seeking, love in any sort of substance and in
Right.
whorehouses and stuff like that to like, wow, like you
Right.
say, recognition from my mother. Maybe my father actually did do this. That's crazy. I don't know why he wouldn't say anything. And then like, wow, everybody is cheering for me. That's nuts. So yeah, you can see him. I liked that path, and I thought it actually made
Yeah.
sense for how he could be accepting of this role now.
Yeah. I completely agree. I've not, I mean, accepting his time as, a baby slash 2-year-old child. I've not liked Aegon from the beginning. From when he could
Right.
actually show us a personality and a character, I've always thought he was like a little shit and was either already or on his way to becoming like another Joffrey Baratheon. And still think he's on, pieces of that path for sure, where being a ruler for him is more about showboating and the recognition and glory and faux love that he gets rather than any sort of responsibility. But I thought that his character journey was very true to his character. I felt
Yep.
that everything in this episode was very appropriate for him, from running and
Mhm.
hiding because he doesn't want the responsibility, because that's in the moment all he's thinking about. He's not thinking about like the fun side of it. Totally, totally got that. Um, you know, the fact that he had to be like dragged back to the castle by, his I mean, well, first like his guard, and then, secondly after Kristen gets him by Kristen, fit very well. And then like the way that he was like, I don't want this, dad didn't want this for me. I know who these people are. I know how you feel about me, to switching to like, I'm just going to go along with it cuz this seems pretty great. Everything fit for him.
Yep. And I like you mentioned that there is a sort of Joffrey element and that he's a spoiled
Yeah.
kid, but it's not a Joffrey clone because Joffrey wanted this
Yes,
always,
yes.
and he was
Absolutely. And that's
cruel
the difference.
always. And so yeah, you
Well,
get
I mean, I think Aegon's been cruel in different ways always. Because one of the first times we see him, he's just like spouting horrible nonsense at his mom, and then also at Aemond. He's like one of the bullies that
mm,
sets Aemond up with the pig as his
mm.
dragon. Um, and then of course, like we move on to like he's a drunk and he's useless. Then we move on to like he's forcing serving girls in his bedroom and he's like raping them. Now
I
in
don't
this
remember I don't
episode,
remember that.
oh yeah, last
Is
episode, like the very beginning where Allison pays off that serving girl, um, that I talked about, like how she's,
Oh,
yeah.
well, I didn't know
She's all,
that was a forced thing. I guess I
uh,
didn't
uh,
recognize
I
that,
read
but
I read it her as like her with how scared she was. I'm pretty sure that was like a forced
interesting. See, I read it
sexual
as she's
encounter.
afraid of the queen because she understands that she's been caught with her son and like, what are you
But
gonna
she wasn't
do
caught
to my
though, because she was the one who found his personal guard and told him what happened. So if she had been caught,
Mm,
I think that's a completely different scenario, you're right. But she was the one who,
okay.
like, told Eric what, Aegon did to her, and then Eric brought her to the queen.
Okay. It's funny they give her that drink, and then in this episode, they are like,
Oh my god,
"Yeah, he's probably
Aegon
got
has
a ton of
bastards.
bastards all over."
Yeah. I mean, which clearly Alicent doesn't know about.
Right.
Um, but
Yeah.
then, yeah, again, in this episode, they, like, further the depths of his Aegon's cruelty, in that he not only goes around like fathering bastards and doesn't do anything about it, but then also goes and watches them in these child fighting rings. Like
Right.
he has to know they're his. Like
That's
who
true.
else's are they? Like
Yeah.
he's the one fathering these kids, and then yeah, goes to the child fighting ring, sees these like silver-haired little kids in the ring, and is just like, whatever.
Yep.
So I think he's got his own cruelties, but you are definitely right in the fact that like, he is not 100% Joffrey Baratheon.
Yep.
It's not an exact replica. I just think he's like a different version.
Yep. And then yeah, the like power to, mold your own mind and convince yourself of something that you know is not true, that we see with Alicent. It is impressive because I feel like she has managed to
The
convince herself
gymnastics.
that this is
The
really what
gymnastics.
was is wanted here. And
Uh,
right, how she switched on a dime from "you're worthless, get out of here, what you mean nothing to me" to "oh, my dear son, my dear boy," like yeah, it's
oh
something.
god. It just yeah, if she would stop and think about like when Viserys like is gasping out what to her is his nonsensical, last words, and she just like forces them to fit a narrative. Like in the moment of the conversation, she's clearly confused. Obviously, afterwards, she like, thinks she's put it together or whatever. But in that moment of confusion when Viserys actually utters the words, "The prince that was promised," like if she stopped for half a second to really think about those words and like, do they apply to my son Aegon? I mean, I feel like anybody who knows Aegon knows the answer is a resounding no.
Yep, yep.
Like
The
he just doesn't
Yes.
fit any sort of like glorious title.
No. I think what sold this episode for me and was my favorite part was the tension we had at the beginning, just not knowing how this is going to fall. Because I really
Yeah,
didn't know what to expect and how this was going to transpire. And I didn't see the split amongst the family, amongst Alicent and Otto in the competition for we're going to do it this way, we're going to do it this way. Same
yeah,
ultimate goal, but different means. And so I found that really interesting at the council meeting that they're first discussing this. And I felt the tension. I felt it just like the leader of the White Cloaks, who's been a
oh,
spectacular character
yes,
the whole time, Graham McTavish, and you could see the discomfort on his face. Like,
yeah,
I'm not doing this if you asked me to do this. Like, are we really doing this right now? You just killed a member of the high of the council. Like,
right.
all this stuff is
Ugh,
just freaking him
Kristen.
out. And he is like one of the only like resolute, you know, touch keystone characters here that's has feels like they stand for what they say, they have a
Right,
moral backbone and
right.
have some semblance of honor. And Alance's name is Sir Harold Westerling, which is a
Yes.
good name.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think that his moment of standing up is all the more impressive for and not that he's like a coward or anything, but I just think it's more impressive for just like literally watching Lord Beesbury who,
Yeah.
just did the same thing. And I didn't expect it of him. He really had the mettle to just call everybody out and be like, this is some betrayal, treason bullshit going on up
Yep.
in here. Um and he just like called everybody out, and then Kristen just killed him, and then still it's hard to think of him as Sir Harold Westerling. I keep wanting to just say it like you said, Graham McTavish.
Mhm.
Um just stands up as like, no, even still, I just watched you murder him. Maybe Kristen will come after me. Or no, I don't know how to read the tenor of this room, but still, this ain't right, and I'm not having it.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I did enjoy that there were at least people complicating the situation. And I did enjoy, like you said, the fracture between Alicent and Otto, where, Alicent, even though I'm always like, God, you're so slow realizing what your father is capable of. Like, she always just comes to this, like, oh my God, he really does do this. Like, in the last episode where she had the, like, realization of, like, man, my father really manipulated me into this marriage that I didn't want. And now she's like, man, my father just set up this whole like, contingency plan of betrayal and treason and made me believe that Rhaenyra was out to kill me and my family when he's been plotting her murder the whole time. Like, so slow, but you got there, girl, I guess. Um, but yeah, just like her realization of like, even though I don't like his means and I'm going to stand up against his means, I like the end of it where my family gets to be, you know, ruling and
Right.
sitting the Iron Throne, and I get my piece of the power by whispering in Aegon's ear if I can find him first.
Yep.
And that's really like setting up the whole race between Alicent and Otto, who finds Aegon, who gets to whisper.
Yep.
Which Renice, since she's on our screens for those of you watching, really just accurately calls Alicent out on, just like absolutely dresses her up and down with her little speech about like all you're doing is looking to make a window out of your prison wall. You're not actually looking to escape. And was just
Right.
oof, the most scathing burn.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is I don't know that Allison really did get there on her own. It kind of did come down to Renice like giving her that little speech
Oh,
to help her get
yeah.
there, you know?
Sorry, I didn't mean she like fully got there on her own, but when she is sitting in that like first small council scene and she's just sort of
Yeah.
realizing how many men around the table have planned for this day and like have things ready to go, she's just sort of like the wheels are turning. And then yes, I
Mhm.
think Renice helps her like make that final leap. But
Yep.
yeah, just watching her like figure all of that out, I think it's a good you know, ploy as far as, like, direction goes, like, for the audience, just, like, catching up to all of this. We're kind of seeing it through Allison's eyes, who's, like, seeing it for the first time. So it's a
Right.
good, like, in,
Yep.
but yeah. It's frustrating
And then
also
it's
as a viewer to be like, "Allison, God, get there."
well, and then it was strengthened as well with her conversation with her father, which I did like the two of
Yes.
them. And neither of them really give any ground, but like she's like she does put that forward. Like you've put all these things in place for me and sort of enough with it. This is what's happening. So I liked that. And I also liked that despite what she's, like you say, that she's come to this realization that she's put in place here to be in this marriage she didn't want and all this stuff. She seems in this episode to really care though. It still came out like she cries over
Viserys?
Viserys's body
Yeah. Mhm.
and I do think that she's still and that's why like a lot of this is all a little um it, it's sad because she has a lot. She has she had a husband that actually cared for her that and is in a position of royalty, so she gets to be royalty. She doesn't have to live in the gutters with everybody else. She
Right.
has many
She could have had a
children.
husband that who was cruel too. Like, let's
Right,
not forget her, like, little speech with Rhaenyra where she's like, "At least you get to pick your husband." But, I mean, yeah, her husband got picked for her, but at least he's not, like, a total, like, torturer or, like, somebody who, like, would beat her or just, like,
right.
completely ignore her and shut her away. Like,
Mhm.
Viserys, kind of grows uninterested over the years, but starts out really caring for her.
Yeah. Yeah, they sort of grow apart and they don't pay enough attention to their children, all this stuff, but
Right.
um yeah. So but so I liked those moments. Gives her more, humanity and
Yeah. Yeah, the
yeah.
the time that I thought her kind of complicated characterization was at its best was, the moment that she's with Viserys's body. And she truly seemed sad, and it did make me empathize with her as a character because I think there was love there. And I think she's sad that he was a good man and it's not his fault that she felt trapped in their marriage.
Mhm.
Um so she's sort of, remembering like the good things and remembering him as overall a good man, and she's genuinely sorry that he died. But also there like it conflicts with how frustrated I get with her evolution as a character because the way that like Viserys is wrapped up and he's about to have a funeral in the tradition of the seven, the newer gods, rather than like being burned as a Targaryen is just like that is not what Viserys would want. Like,
Right.
ugh. Like think about your husband. Don't think about like your newfound like religion, you know. So yeah, so
Yep.
it's like a little bit frustrating. There's like that tension of character where she's sorry, but also she can't like get over herself in some
Yep.
ways.
Yep. Well, let's make a shift here and talk about Laris Strong and the foot scene.
Gross. It's gross.
Hey, no kink shaming, Andrea.
I
All we
just
do on
did
this
it.
podcast.
I just did it. um,
um,
yeah. Obviously, you said right off the bat that you were hearing some things about that and had some strong reactions to the foot scene.
I had heard that it was like just so disgusting and it went on so long. And so I was waiting for like this to really escalate. I
Yeah,
thought
sure.
he'd be sucking on those toes and all kinds of stuff. And so to me it's like, well, that wasn't that long. It was pretty tame.
No,
Um, but what was more interesting to me really was the content of the discussion yet. And I was a
sure.
little confused because was he suggesting that her daughter is involved in this ring of spies or
Uh, no, I don't believe
or is
so.
like a pawn of this, like people are using her for it
No,
or what? Because she was brought up, was she not? Like, or
yes,
did I
yeah.
miss something?
I felt that they were talking. Um, I mean, they were obviously talking about Allison's maid, Talia, who was reporting here. On screen we see Missaria. So that was, kind of like the head of the snake that they were talking about. But I believe they were also referring to. I thought that they were referring to Aegon and Helena's like children's nanny. That's what I thought. That's where I thought her daughter came
Hmm.
into it.
Okay.
Not that Helena had anything to actually do with it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just a little confused there.
Yeah,
What
their
is
their
exactly
conversation was a
being
little
said?
yeah, their conversation was a little abstract, and I think it was supposed to be that way because Laris is really drawing this out because this is like his moment of like, I'm forcing you to do the thing. I really want you
Right.
to be the feat. I really want to like draw it out as much as possible.
Hmm.
Like they've obviously done this dance a lot. And
Right.
so he knows how to like prolong to keep getting what he wants, which is not just like, here's her feet. It's just like, here's my bare feet. Here and now are like my feet in your view so you can jack off to them. Again, not things I say on this podcast that I just like I'm like, any other context in my life, the sentence would just be what? Um, and yet here I've said it.
We just have
Um,
a new follower on Twitch at this very moment, and they're probably gone now. It's a unfollow. It's just
sorry. Thank you for being here.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that was him drawing out the conversation because of course he wants this moment as long as he can because
Okay.
he knows Allison is reluctant but going to give in as long as he keeps like tit- titillating her with information as she titillates
Yep.
him with her feet. Again, gross. Can't believe I'm saying this, but that's where I am.
Hey, it's
This is what the
you
writers have
know,
made me do.
it's not very
I hope you're happy, writers,
it's not difficult. She gets to look away. She gets to stay like 6 feet away.
right?
It's
She just has to show 'em her bare feet. I mean,
this is a
obviously, like,
win-win. This
I
is a
yeah,
win-win.
well, I mean, it's like a win-win-ish. 'Cause I mean, yeah,
Well, anytime.
she's her face obviously says, like, "I hate this." as
Right.
as she
Well,
should.
yeah,
I mean, like, she doesn't want any part of this, and it's obviously she feels like it's debasing, which it is. But I mean, if she really didn't want this information, like,
Mhm.
don't give it up like that.
She should have been, commissioning the royal, um, artist to draw many
Oh my
versions of
god,
her feet
that's a clever
and
workaround. Wow. Didn't even think
sell
of that.
them to him for
Information,
some good
yeah.
coin and information, yeah. Mhm.
Oof, yeah, I didn't think about that. I wonder how long you'd be satisfied by that though. Because they've
I know.
clearly, like, escalated, you know what I mean? Like, it obviously
Yeah.
didn't start out as her just, like, propping up her bare feet for him to, like, pleasure
It would
himself
get
to.
to it would
That's
get to
obviously
the
not the first
artist.
time.
Yeah, right, right. It would get to the artist drawing him in portrait with the feet,
Sure.
so he could, like, really, like, they can get really creative, and
But then you have to, like, let somebody else in on
I
that, you know
know,
what I mean?
I know,
Because
that
it
is the
lit
thing, but
you'd have to, like, bring somebody in and trust that they wouldn't, tell. Because
I
obviously
know.
she's not gonna tell, and Laris is like, "I really like this arrangement, so as long as it works for me, I won't tell anybody." But how
But
do you
you're
trust
right.
somebody else then
But
too?
Laris is so connected, I feel like that's what they're setting up is that he is very, so who's gonna get away with betraying this deal? Because he'll know
Somebody,
about it,
yeah. Yeah.
you know?
But
So,
somebody is going to. I mean, this clearly
yeah.
doesn't, like, go on forever. Like, there's gonna be a point where, either Laris or Allison finds it beneficial to, you know I mean, for Laris, he might, like, expose this to Otto or use it in some way to, like, curry favor with Otto, or Allison is going to feel she has, like, a replacement for Laris and betray him somehow.
They That was interesting. We did see Laris
Yeah.
kind of start a relationship with Otto. They had their
Yes.
brief little discussion where Otto is not unaware that he's spent a lot of time with his daughter, and he's just like, "Yeah, that could be beneficial to you as well."
Yep. Yep.
We don't know what that
So
means yet.
yeah, I mean, obvious like you say, we don't know what that means yet. For me, I at least took it as, like, a slippery slope or a hint that there at some point where Laris could absolutely betray Allison's trust, um,
Right. Yeah.
and, sell her out to Otto in some fashion, including, her depravity, really his depravity, but obviously Otto would take it poorly about Allison. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, for Allison, there's always a risk of, somebody's gonna catch them and she's the queen and this is highly improper, especially for a woman. Anything near sexual that, a woman could be caught with is obviously gonna be worse for the woman. So,
I think she should just embrace it, just, "Hey, y'all, I have beautiful feet. What are
she
you gonna
can't though.
what can you do? What can you do? I have
Can't
beautiful
though,
feet."
because she's built up this whole, like, I'm a pious, chaste, virtuous queen image.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Rhaenyra could get away with this,
that's true. Yeah, I
because
suppose maybe
everybody's
that's
just sort of
yeah,
like, she already has a scandalous reputation. Like, we kind of talk about it, but we're also kind of afraid of her. So, like, whatever. I mean, it would be weird, but it would be a lot easier to, like, accept for Rhaenyra, whereas, like, Alicent is like paragon, chastity, virtue, like, can't do any of this
sure,
stuff. So,
sure.
yeah.
All right. We also now we should talk about. We mentioned her, but should get into a little more Renice because she was.
Yes.
This was definitely her biggest moment in this episode or in this season thus far for her
She is
character.
a
She had more screen
boss.
time.
Yes, she is a boss bitch in this episode for, like, being someone who you initially think is, like, a prisoner and, gonna be, like, a victim or a casualty of this Green Council. She has two of the absolute just biggest cut downs of this episode, and I loved it. Good
Yeah, we
for her.
talked about the one already, really giving Allison a piece of her mind. And
Oof.
then she gets broken out, and that
Yes,
looks like it's
by the better
gonna
twin.
go badly all of a sudden. Um and then we see her smile, and I didn't know what that was about. And so she had an idea. And obviously we get our episode capping off with her busting in.
Oh,
No regard for human life, I
nope,
might add.
nope.
So,
Holy cow. I mean,
Targaryen through and through,
did
but
you see that coming? Because,
no.
her dragon, Meleys, erupted out of the ground, and I was just like, "Whoa!" Like, viscerally just hit with that. Was not expecting it at all.
As soon as the
So
dragon was there, though, I figured it was her.
oh, I did
Like,
too.
they hide the rider
Yeah.
for a while. I'm like, I bet it's her. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, especially because earlier when, Eric is trying to escort her to safety and she's like, "My dragon," and he's like, "Sorry." But the second
Hmm.
yeah, like you said, that her dragon erupted out of the ground, I was like, "There she is, just making an entrance." Woo, the
So,
destruction. I was shocked. That is, like, the way to interrupt that ceremony, which is going perfectly for Aegon right up until that moment.
yeah.
And nobody's gonna remember a GD thing about the actual ceremony other than, "Holy shit, we were all terrified by the dragon that just
Yep.
burst in."
Hmm. I
I
like
mean
how they have to they can't be like, "Hey, announcement, king being crowned." It's just like herd everyone that's available
right? It's like
in.
forced
Just
march to
you're
yeah,
going as witness, like that's what it is.
yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it's cool. Like, so w- two things. Should she have torched them all?
Yes.
And two, why did she not? Or what's being said here?
Yeah, my only thought here is she's suffered so much death and pain and loss, and Alicent stepping in front of Aegon was just like, "I can't take her child away, mine have all been taken unjustly from me." You know what I mean? Like, this she's
Sure.
for as much as she, like, hates the Hightowers and, like, thinks that it's wrong that they're on the throne right now, and that Aegon was crowned because obviously Rhaenyra is supposed to be queen, um, she just isn't the person to pull the trigger, you know?
Right.
From her own losses and her own recent experience, I just think she's like, "You know what? It doesn't matter if I torch them all here because I think Rhaenyra is gonna win anyway, so, like, she'll do the dirty deed."
Mm,
That's the only thing that's sort of, like, going through my mind is, like, she doesn't wanna be the one to cause that loss for somebody else, even though obviously she would torch Alicent in the process. But she just doesn't wanna do it because she thinks Rhaenyra will win and do it for her.
mm.
But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
I absolutely was, like, ready for her to just, like, unleash
Light
a
him up.
fireball. Yeah, light him up. Light him up, baby. 4th of July. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
I
mean, that
know
would have
obviously
really
I kn
been that would have been like like red wedding scale. I
right?
mean, just
Right?
wow. You
I
just
mean, it really would have blown my mind because I obviously, like, sat there watching, her dragon threaten them all and be like, "Obviously, they're not gonna do it because then the war's over." But, um, yeah, it would have been
but it
shocking
wouldn't
and
have to
would have
be.
been so satisfying.
We could have seen who the real Targaryens were. Eye
Mhm.
Patch Kid could have been like
Aemond could have lived.
invulnerable to fire. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's true,
he's the one. He's got the biggest dragon. And
right?
so
Yeah.
that would have been interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to think of why she didn't. Like you say, probably I'm not going to take someone else's children. And she thought she can scare them enough. Like, and have this over them. I
Right.
could have burnt you all right there.
Right.
I chose to not leave me and Driftmark alone,
Right.
kind of thing. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, in the post episode, explainer, we get a lot of like, well, she just like really also wants to go tell Rhaenyra what happened. I'm like, doesn't matter if she flew off 5 or 10 seconds later after she burned them all to a crisp. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I thought that was kind of like a lame explainer of like Rhaenyra needs to know. And then Rhaenyra needs her enemies also dead. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I actually didn't see the post-credit thing on this one, so I didn't
Oh,
know if
okay.
there was what else there was in there, but yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No,
Um,
no.
was that the actress or was that the showrunner or writer?
Showrunner. Showrunner. That was not her.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what I again, I've never had this issue with a show before where so many conflicting problems with the post-credit
Yeah, yeah. I
things.
feel like the
That's
post credits
very
have really been
weird.
like up and down, where some
Yeah.
of them are, like provide much needed explanations for things where you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I wish you would have put that in the actual episode. It really would
Yeah.
have helped me. And then sometimes I'm like, oh no, I hate your explanation of that motivation.
Yep.
That's terrible. That's not what I read in the scene at
Yep.
all. So
Yep.
yeah.
Well, art is in the eye of the beholder. That's why
Right,
sometimes it is
right. Art
best
is
that they shut
subjective.
up
Yes.
because, yeah, you can.
Well, and I do tend to like hearing more from the actors and actresses, just talking about their character motivations because that often gives me a different perspective on things where it's not so like showrunners are often trying to say like we did this way because we wanted to make this black and white point. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Whereas, like, the actors are usually like, "I see Rhaenyra doing this because I felt blah," or like, when she makes this choice, I was really trying to convey these conflicting emotions and things that, happened in the previous episode that are coming to bear on this decision. And I find that to be more interpretive, and I like those considerations rather than like the showrunners being like, "We did this way."
Hmm. They are achieving two very different things by commenting because if
Right.
you're a writer or showrunner, it's sort of like it should be setting sort of the way it is, kind of clarification of
Right.
what we have in the world or what you're seeing or how something was done. When you listen to an actor or something like that, then it feels more like you're getting how an actor got there, like why
Yes.
what they're so that's not giving clarification really to a character or the world necessarily, but how they saw it and how that bore fruit to what was put on screen. So
Yeah, yeah, and I do like that kind of non-clarification. I like the this is how I interpreted it because it just gives me more to consider about
sure.
motivation or considering like the complexity of a character rather than seeing them too black and white. I mean, I do have strong opinions about some of the characters in this show and I just don't know that like adding any other layers of complexity to Alicent or Otto or Aegon's is ever gonna make me, like, think, like, "Ooh, I really am just enjoying this
Sure.
character," but it does help.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I didn't see the preview for the next one. I didn't see that. I don't know what happened. It didn't play after the episode, so I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
okay.
I guess there isn't one." But
Yeah,
whatever
I
happened
mean,
there?
I've seen the preview, where I wrote here preview of Dragon Devastation, I was really talking about, Meleys coming in and just, like, you know, pounding through and devastating that coronation, both the building and the people.
Hmm.
It's just really kind of giving us, like, as the audience, not only just absolutely taking this moment from the high towers,
Yeah.
but also previewing what a war with people with dragons is going to look like the absolute
Right.
havoc and devastation that a dragon can wreak this is just a small taste of what's going to be happening when
Right.
there's like multiple dragons coming to bear.
Yes.
So it is kind of just an impressive foreshadowing of like, this is what one dragon can do. Imagine, what, 10 dragons, 20
Hmm.
dragons, however many dragons on each side could do.
One last thing that I need an answer to, and then I think
Okay.
I've said what I need to say anyways.
Okay.
What was with the one twin abandoning his brother?
Yeah. Yeah. I loved
What
it.
the heck?
I loved
What
it.
what what but I don't understand. Why
Okay.
why?
So so it was born out of when they were going to look, they were sent by Otto to look for Aegon, and the one twin was like, Eric E was questioning his brother Auric. I believe that's the pronunciation to differentiate the names. Um, was like, why do we want to go find Aegon? We've been guarding him for years. We've seen what a little shit he is. Like,
Mhm.
not only like the drinking, the cheating on his wife, and like, he doesn't care anything. He's never studied. He's never taken responsibility. Like, he doesn't want a king. And then also, cherry on top, like, he is cruel in that he watches these child fights in which his own bastard children participate and does nothing about it. Like,
Mhm.
he is complete shit from top to bottom. Why are we finding him? And Arik's like, duty. And
Right.
Eric's like, yeah, but is that enough to just like blindly put this little turd on the throne? And his brother's like, yep. And he's like, no, I don't think so. So yeah, so that was like the whole motivation. They find Aegon, Arik is gonna bring him back, and Eric's like, no, no, I don't need to be part of this. I don't want to be part of this. Like, Otto has the wrong ideas. I don't even want Aegon to be king. So just gonna bounce, let Kristen take Aegon because maybe Alicent can soften him up a little bit and be, the lesser of two evils because he's obviously getting on the throne now that he's been found. And I'm gonna go free Rhaenys because I'm gonna join their cause.
Hmm. That makes sense. I get what you're
I mean, it's a
what
it's
you're
a
saying
lot
with
to
that.
get to. It's a
Yeah.
lot to get to in very short scenes.
I guess it just surprised me that he was gonna, I understood the disagreement. That makes sense. I was surprised he was gonna let his brother potentially be murdered by Kristen Cole. Like that's obviously he didn't. That's not what happened.
Right,
But
right.
just the way we've seen Cole, and even in this episode,
You never know,
I was
man.
like, this could be a battle to the death right now. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna, and so you're gonna leave your brother to die for, like even if you disagree. That's what I was surprised by, I guess
right.
the most.
Yeah, I agree. I think Eric probably, I mean, he obviously hadn't seen Kristen just like murder Beesbury out
Right.
of hand. So maybe if he had been in the room for that, might have like at least ensured that his brother would have, lived,
Yeah.
but just sort of trusted Kristen's honor that he wasn't going to murder him once he had Aegon.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I mean a little bit of like, taking a gamble with your brother's life there, but I mean ultimately if he's going to be joining the cause for the other side, like you have to know there's a possibility that,
Yep.
your brother is either going to die by somebody else's or your hand in the upcoming civil war here.
Yep. And I did like the scene where they're Otto's asking for them to swear fealty now to a new king, to this new
Nope,
proclamation. And I was just thinking, okay, so these are powerful houses. You've sworn, like, don't walk in here without your guards. Like,
right?
where's your arm? Because of course you've got these people looking down at you from the Iron Throne. They have guards and like, hey,
Right.
swear
Ready to
yourself. This
kill
is the
you.
new
Yeah.
plan. Um, so of course,
And two
I
people
mean,
have the balls to be like, "Nope."
right,
And then I
right,
mean, I softened towards Caswell a little bit when I realized he's
yes,
obviously gonna try to get out to, like, warn Rhaenyra,
yep,
but I also was just like, "Ugh, dude, have the stones, man. Like,
hmm,
just stand up for it."
yep. Uh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
episode 9. That's
Yeah.
House of the Dragon, episode 9.
A
All
lot
done.
happening. A lot happening.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
mean, it's a lot of very quickly moving pieces, so it does feel realistic in the sense of like this is trying to like hush hush be done before anybody can really. I mean, all this is
Yeah.
happening. Like so much is happening. Rhaenyra doesn't even know her father died.
Yep.
Like this
Mhm.
episode really conveys at least the sense of like urgency, the sense of like hush hush, like we're getting this done without anybody's, being able to get a plan in place to stop us. That is
Yep.
really well done, the pacing.
Yep. Well, it's going to be very interesting to see where the season wraps, what we manage to
Yes.
achieve in the next episode before, like you say, we have to wait a couple years to continue on.
Yes, yes.
Um, but yeah, we hopefully you're all enjoying it. I'm certainly looking forward to this new one. I don't know what it is. Every time I like kind of fall out of it, it's like, okay, I gotta watch this. And then I watch it and I'm like, this is a great show. I don't know what's going on. So having
Yeah,
fun with it.
yeah.
But
I do always get worried before starting an episode and then I watch it and you're right. I'm just like, "Oh man, sucking me
yeah.
in."
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everyone. That has been Popcast on the Rocks episode 125. Hopefully we'll be back and a little more consistent again, like normal. I apologize for that. Otherwise, make sure you go back and look at our past episodes as well. We have lots of clips up on YouTube. You can subscribe to us there, on Twitch, your favorite podcast directory, follow us on Twitter, all that sort of thing. I think we have community access now on YouTube, so hopefully we'll maybe add a few community section things on there. Um, if you do listen to us on podcast formats, please leave a review. That'd be much appreciated. And if on YouTube, like and share, all that sort of thing. Killing the Flower, they wrote our theme song. So you should give them a look at Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. They're on Apple Music as well. They have, for some reason, they're listed as two bands on Apple Music, even though it says the same name, but one of them has the new song that's out and the other one doesn't. So I
Okay.
don't know what's going on there or if that's been fixed yet or what. But anyways, they do have a new song, so go ahead and check that out. So that's um that's about it.
Cool.
Andrea, thanks for
Yeah.
joining me once again.
Of course. As always, cheers everybody.
Of something other than just water now. What is that?